Anybody, can anybody tell me a method for remembering the order of operations that you've learned in the past? PEMDAS, yeah, PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, maybe you've heard. So what does the P stand for? Parentheses, yeah, go ahead and call out. And what about the E? Exponents, exactly. M, multiplication. D, division, yeah. A, add or addition. And subtraction. Okay, that's exactly what PEMDAS says. Are there some details that I missed? Does anybody know any details about this? Yeah. Right? And that's it. Parentheses are first. Yeah, it does. It goes, parentheses are first, exponents are second. Is multiplication third? It just depends. What do you mean it depends? Right. So multiplication and division are kind of the same thing. I mean, we've sort of learned that this year when we were doing our recursive stuff, right? And I said, don't use division. So like dividing by 3 is the same as multiplying by 1/3, right? So since I can use one to do the other, they're the same operation. And you're absolutely right. We do need to do these left to right. And how about then, is addition ahead of subtraction? It depends. Yeah, this one depends as well. So it sounds like you guys have been taught well. This is also left to right. There's one other detail that I would add to this, actually maybe two. And I'm going to show you a different way to maybe think of it. At least I'll show you the way I think of it. This is fine. Parentheses is any kind of grouping symbols and they have an order as well. The order is inside out. So if you have some inner ones, you work from the inside out. Inside out. Exponents. How do you undo an exponent? What's the opposite of like squaring? Close, not cubing. Square root, right. So exponents and square roots are like multiplication and division. They're really the same sort of operation. So it would fit in here too. Exponents and roots. Usually it doesn't really, I've not really seen many problems where it's sort of like left to right, but inside out possibly could apply. Anyway, we won't see a lot of that in this class, but you'll see it in the future. So here's the thing. I'm not that big on words, although I do like, excuse me, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I look at it like this. This is Mr. T's order of operations. I think of it as 1, 2, 3, 4. Your first thing are your grouping symbols. Anything like this. And then, unfortunately, I can't be totally wordless, inside out. Exponents, maybe x to the y or something like that. And the radicals, y to the x. 3, multiplication, division, left to right. And addition and subtraction, left to right. For whatever reason, I just kind of like the more symbolic way of doing this. And it may not be true for you. Different people learn things differently. I kind of like the symbols way. So this is my way of thinking of the order of operations. And here's why I bring it up. There is a couple of things that we'll be working on, and we've already worked on a bit in this class, that I think are absolutely critical. If you have any hopes of getting through math, not only in this class, but in your future classes, there's a couple things you have to be able to do. You have to be able to solve an equation effectively, most of the time anyway. And you have to be able to graph reasonably well, reasonably well. So when we solve equations, oftentimes we're working, we work the problem backwards, but that means we work the order of operations backwards. I'm not going to say always, I'm going to say regularly. So instead of PEMDAS, we have SA SAD map. SAD map. PEMDAS, this is PEMDAS backwards. Again, we don't always use it exactly as that, but it's a fair guideline. Sometimes we can kind of break that guideline, but a guideline is all it really is. Okay. One other thing I want to add to the notes, and we've talked about this before, but it's been a little while, are the operation rules. When we solve an equation, there are some rules. Is everybody with me? Need some more time to copy that down. So, really not quite so much rules as properties, but properties are like rules. The four main, I'm going to call them the four main ones. There are 5, but the 4 main ones are the addition property, of equality, the subtraction property of equality, multiplication property of equality, and the division property of equality. So the thing about these guys is this. If 1 is used on one side of the equation, then the operation must be repeated on the other side. The other side, what do I mean the other side? The other side of what? Of the equation of the equals, yeah. So basically these properties say, if you have an equation, you can do anything you want, as long as you do it equally to both sides. You want to add 50? Sure, go ahead. But you got to do it to both sides of the equal sign. You want to divide by 7/8? Sure, go ahead. But you got to do it to both sides. Okay? So the other one property that I'm most concerned with you knowing is the distributive property. It isn't one that has to be repeated on both sides of the equation. When do we use the distributive property? When do you see that? When you got parentheses, right. Yeah, when we have some parentheses. So something like A times B plus C equals AB plus AC. So I can distribute that A to both terms. There's one other property I think we're going to maybe see today, but I don't think we're going to use it all that greatly, so I'm not going to mention it in our notes at this point. Cool? Just curious. The order of operations, what do you guys think? PEMDAS? Or that other 1, 2, 3, 4 thing? Anybody have a preference? PEMDAS? Yeah. It's something you've learned. You've got to make sure you remember those details. They're important. Okay. All right. Let's then look back and look at one of these guys real quick. So I'm going to look at that first one again. You're going to have a problem today. That's actually a few problems that are going to look like this. One. See, I think I just need 3. Oh, gosh. It's so clear. So we're given a problem. So I gave you a problem. This is a given problem. And what was the first step we did to solve this problem? We subtracted 2, exactly. So we had, the next answer was x divided by 3 equals 9, right? What property allowed us to go from this step to this step? The addition property, subtraction property, multiplication? Yeah, subtraction property. So it's technically the subtraction property of equality, but I'm totally okay with you just going subtraction prop. I subtracted the 2 from both sides. Now, you can write that in there, that's just fine. But okay, now how did we go from here to the answer? Because the next thing we wrote, the next big idea was that this equaled 27, right? So what property allowed me to go from 2 to 3? Multiplication property, right? So you're going to have some problems that are going to ask you to identify, maybe work out too, but identify what properties were used to get from step to step. Did I use